parents disinvited me from family vacation. You're always a burden, they said. I laughed and booked a luxury cruise. When they saw my photos, they were speechless. I still remember the way my mom's voice tightened over the phone, like she was trying to be casual but couldn't quite hide the bite underneath. Hey, listen, about the trip, we've been talking, and it's probably better if you don't come. I sat there, frozen on the other end, my half-packed suitcase still open on the bed. I'd spent the last week daydreaming about this family vacation, the first real one we'd planned in years. It wasn't even my idea, they'd insisted I join them. They said it would be good for me. A way to reconnect. To finally feel included, as my dad put it. I had let myself believe them. I had let myself hope. And now, 5 days before departure, here I was, holding the phone in a hand that suddenly felt too heavy, hearing the words I had always feared but never thought they would actually say out loud. You're always a burden, my mother added quickly, as if ripping off a bandage. It's just easier this way. Easier. The words slammed into me harder than anything else. Like I was some obstacle they could just remove to lighten the load. Like all the years of trying, all the sacrifices, all the silent endurance meant nothing. At first, I didn't say anything. Just listened to the background hum of their TV, the muffled sound of my sister laughing, the clang of dishes. Life moving on. Without me. Okay. I heard myself say, even though my chest was caving in. Thanks for letting me know. And I hung up. For a long time, I just sat there staring at my suitcase, the neat rows of clothes I had folded so carefully, the passport peeking out from under my jacket, like it all belonged to someone else now. Someone foolish enough to think he had a place among people who never truly wanted him around. But in that silence, in that stillness, something inside me shifted. Something old, something buried. Not rage. Not sadness even. Something freer. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to fight. I was done. The next morning, I woke up early, out of habit more than anything else. The apartment was cold and quiet, sunlight creeping in weakly through the blinds. I made coffee without tasting it, sat at the kitchen table staring at the blank screen of my phone. That's when curiosity got the better of me. I opened up our family group chat, the one where they used to send updates, photos, little reminders about trips and birthdays. It had been oddly silent for days. Now, new messages popped up. Photos. Pictures of suitcases stacked in the trunk of my dad's car. Tickets. A screenshot of the Airbnb confirmation, a sprawling villa with ocean views, infinity pool, private chef. But what really caught my eye was a caption under a photo my sister had posted. Finally! Just the 4 of us. No dead weight this time. I stared at it, blinking slowly, as if maybe I was reading it wrong. Maybe it meant something else. Maybe it was an inside joke. But deep down, I knew exactly what it meant. I wasn't just left out. I was intentionally cut out. They were celebrating it. Laughing about it. I scrolled further. My mom had even commented under the picture. Feels lighter already. It was like every suspicion I had ever swallowed down, the quiet moments when they ignored me, the jokes at my expense, the way decisions were always made without me, had finally spilled out into the open, plain as day. No more pretending. No more second-guessing. For the first time in a long time, the grief in my chest gave way to something stronger. Something sharper. Resolve. By noon that day, my sadness had burned off like morning fog under the sun. What was left was clarity. I wasn't going to text them. I wasn't going to call and ask why. I already knew. Instead, I pulled open the drawer where I kept all my important papers and found what I was looking for, a letter from my grandfather's lawyer. I'd barely touched the money he left me, my quiet inheritance, because I always thought maybe someday my parents would need help. That maybe, if I kept showing them loyalty, they'd finally see me as family. What a joke. I stared at the letter for a long minute, feeling something inside me click into place. I didn't owe them anything. Not my money. Not my forgiveness. Not even my explanation. I pulled out my laptop, heart pounding with a strange, fierce excitement, and typed 3 simple words into the search bar. Luxury World Cruise. Options exploded across the screen. Photos of dazzling blue oceans, golden sunsets, crystal chandeliers, and smiling faces sipping champagne on endless decks. Not rush vacations packed with drama and cramped hotels. Real luxury. Real peace. I didn't hesitate. I booked the Grand Suite on a 6-month world cruise, private excursions, first-class dining, spa treatments, personal butler service. The kind of experience people only dreamed about. And I smiled. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting around for someone to invite me. I was inviting myself to the life I deserved. The day the cruise departed, the city was wrapped in that soft, golden light that makes even the streets seem forgiving. I rolled my suitcase toward the private cruise terminal, my heart hammering like I was about to step into a different lifetime, and in a way, I was. The ship itself was massive, a floating palace gleaming under the sun. Staff in crisp uniforms greeted me like I was someone important, someone worth celebrating. I wasn't just a passenger here. I was free. When they opened the doors to my suite, I actually stood there for a second, stunned. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A private balcony bigger than my old living room. A king-size bed with soft, fresh linens. A bathroom that looked like it belonged in a 5-star hotel, complete with a marble-soaking tub. There was a bottle of champagne chilling on the counter with a little note. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Carter. Here's to new beginnings." I laughed under my breath as I popped the cork and poured myself a glass, the bubbles hissing like a secret whispered in the air. That evening, I watched the city skyline shrink and fade into the distance from my balcony, the ship gliding forward into open water. And I realized, I wasn't leaving anything behind that was worth grieving. Later, I posted my first photo, a shot of my legs stretched out on a lounge chair, glass of champagne in hand, endless blue ocean ahead. No captions. No hashtags. Just a silent message. I'm not your burden anymore. For a few days after I set sail, the world shrank to something simple: blue skies, endless oceans, the soft sway of the ship beneath my feet. I lived in a rhythm of spa appointments, fine dining, private snorkeling excursions, sunset walks along the deck. No guilt. No judgment. No pretending. And for a little while, it was enough to just be. But of course, the past has a way of clawing its way back when you least expect it. It started innocently enough. I posted a photo on social media every other day. A shot of the private beach in Bora Bora, white sand so pure it looked photoshopped. A dinner of truffle pasta and fresh seafood, plated like artwork. A video of a private helicopter ride over a volcanic island, my laughter caught in the background as we soared over smoke and green cliffs. I wasn't showing off. I was documenting my freedom. And apparently, freedom was contagious. Because about a week in, the texts started. First from my sister, Sarah. "Hey, wow, where are you? Looks amazing." Then from my mom. "Looks like you're really living it up. So happy for you. We should catch up soon." I almost laughed when I read that one. Catch up? After tossing me aside like I was last year's garbage? A day later, my dad texted. "You didn't tell us you were going on a trip. Must be nice to have so much free time. Give us a call when you can." There it was. The crack in the wall. They weren't congratulating me. They weren't proud. They were curious. Jealous. Nervous. Because for the first time, I had something they couldn't control. I didn't reply. I didn't even leave the messages on. Read. I simply posted another photo, this one of me, casually dressed, sunglasses on, boarding a private yacht for a day-long sail along the Great Barrier Reef. No caption. Just the photo. And that's when the flood really came. 23 missed calls. 9 voicemails. Texts from numbers I didn't even recognize, cousins, distant aunts, old family friends. All the people my parents had clearly gossiped to. All wanting to know how I was, where I was, why I was suddenly so happy. As if my joy needed to be explained. Meanwhile, through the grapevine, I heard about their vacation. Turns out the family trip of a lifetime wasn't exactly the dream they'd painted. Their Airbnb had plumbing issues. Their rental car got broken into. My sister got food poisoning. And cherry on top, they had bickered so badly that my dad had booked an early flight home, alone. The universe has a sense of humor, it seems. Still, despite their unraveling, they kept trying to reach me. Guilt dripped from their messages like honey turning sour. Family sticks together. You know we love you. It wasn't personal. Let's talk when you get back. But I had no plans to get back. Not to them. I sat on my balcony that night, a glass of chilled white wine in my hand, listening to the hum of the ocean sliding by below. The stars spread above me like spilled diamonds. I thought about every time I had twisted myself into someone they might finally accept. And then I raised my glass slightly to the horizon, murmuring to no one in particular. Here's to dead weight. A few nights later, anchored off the Amalfi Coast under a violet sky, I decided it was time. I opened my phone, thumb hovering over the New Posts button. I could feel the weight of the moment, not anger, not even bitterness anymore, just finality. The cold, clean break I never thought I'd be brave enough to make. I scrolled through my photos until I found the one that said everything without saying anything. A shot of me standing at the ship's railing, a champagne flute in hand, the sun melting into the water behind me. Alone. Strong. Unbothered. I typed the caption carefully. No hashtags. No overthinking. Just 12 simple words. Some burdens turn out to be blessings, once you let them go. And then I posted it. I didn't check the comments. I didn't need to. The point wasn't to rub it in their faces. The point was to close the door. Less than an hour later, my phone exploded, but I didn't even flinch. The same cycle started, apologies dressed as accusations, guilt trips disguised as jokes, desperate invitations to talk it out. We were just joking, you took it too seriously. Family isn't perfect, you know that. Don't throw everything away over one misunderstanding. But what they didn't understand, what they never understood, was that it wasn't about one misunderstanding. It was about a lifetime. Quietly, calmly, I opened my contact list. Blocked my mother's number. Blocked my father's. Blocked my sister's. Deleted the family group chat like it had never existed. Then I logged into my email, hit block on every address that had sent me a pleading letter. One by one. Click. 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 With every block, it felt like a stone was being lifted from my chest. When I finished, I set my phone down, leaned back in the lounge chair on my private balcony, and watched the last edge of the sun disappear beneath the waterline. And just like that, as easily as they had erased me, I erased them. No shouting. No drama. Just silence. And peace. The morning after I blocked them all, I woke up to something I hadn't felt in years. Stillness. Not the kind of stillness that feels heavy or lonely, but the kind that fills your lungs with clean air. The kind that makes you realize just how much noise you had gotten used to, how much space you had given to people who never deserved it. I stretched out in the massive bed, the sunlight spilling in through the sheer curtains, the quiet hum of the ship gently rocking me like the world itself was cradling me. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't brace myself for another guilt trip, another petty jab disguised as a joke. I just laid there, breathing. Later that day, I wandered down to the spa, no rush, no appointments. Just following whatever small, quiet impulse pulled at me. I booked a deep tissue massage and spent 2 hours letting someone else, for once, work out the knots of years of tension. Every press into my back, every stretch of my arms, felt like peeling off another layer of old expectations, old hurts. Afterward, I sat by the infinity pool on the top deck, staring out over endless blue water that seemed to blur into the sky. I watched the sun slip lower, the light turning everything golden soft, and thought about the boy I used to be. The boy who stayed up late finishing extra credit assignments, hoping his parents would notice. The boy who worked 2 jobs and skipped meals to send a little extra money home. The boy who laughed at their jokes about him just so they wouldn't feel uncomfortable. I realized that boy had never been weak. He had been strong, unimaginably strong, carrying burdens that were never his to begin with. They called me a burden. But it was never me weighing the family down. It was their smallness, their resentment, their need to have someone beneath them so they could feel taller. And now, standing on the edge of the world, arms spread wide to catch the ocean breeze, I knew they hadn't abandoned me. They had freed me. I took a deep breath, letting the salt air fill my lungs, and made a silent promise to myself. I would never shrink again. Not for anyone. Not even for people who shared my blood. The ship's horn echoed across the water, low and deep, a sound that seemed to vibrate right through my bones. It wasn't just announcing our departure from another port. It was announcing mine. Departure from guilt. Departure from shame. Departure from being someone else's scapegoat. The horizon stretched endlessly ahead of me. And for the first time, I didn't feel lost at all. I felt found. As the days turned into weeks, the rhythm of my new life wrapped around me like a second skin. Mornings started slow, soft, waking up in a bed warmed by the rising sun, stretching lazily, no alarm blaring, no voices demanding my attention. Sometimes I ordered breakfast to my balcony, fresh croissants, tropical fruits, rich black coffee that tasted like freedom itself, and watched the ocean roll out to the edge of the world. There was no hurry. No fear that I was wasting time. Because for once, I wasn't living by anyone else's clock. In the afternoons, I signed up for things I never thought I'd have the nerve to do. A cooking class in Sicily, kneading dough under an old Italian grandmother's watchful eye while she sang softly to herself. A private scuba diving excursion in the Maldives, where I floated weightless among fields of coral so bright and alive it made my chest ache. A photography workshop in Santorini, capturing whitewashed rooftops against endless skies so blue they almost looked fake. I wasn't pretending to be fearless. I was becoming fearless, without even realizing it. And along the way, something unexpected happened. People gravitated toward me. Not out of pity. Not because they needed something from me. Just because. There was Sophie and Mark, a couple from Vancouver celebrating their retirement, who pulled me into their group on a whim and insisted I join them for dinner at the ship's fine dining restaurant. There was Raj, a quiet man from London who always had a new book tucked under his arm and ended up becoming my favorite conversation partner for long afternoons on deck chairs. There was Mia, a travel writer who carried a notebook everywhere and told stories that made you feel like you were living them right alongside her. None of them knew my past. None of them knew the heavy weight I'd left behind. To them, I was just me. And it was enough. One evening, after a long dinner filled with laughter and too much wine, Sophie clinked her glass against mine and said, with a grin, "You have this peacefulness about you. Like someone who's already won." I smiled. Because for the first time, I realized I had. That night, walking back to my suite under a sky littered with stars, I thought about my family. They were probably still scrambling. Still trying to piece together why their words hadn't pulled me back. Still trying to understand how I could possibly be happy without them. But I didn't owe them an explanation. I didn't owe them anything. Their approval had once been the sun around which I orbited, shrinking and burning myself trying to get close enough to be seen. Now, standing under a galaxy that didn't even know their names, I saw how small their world had always been. And how vast mine could be, if I let it. I paused at the railing, looking out into the dark ocean where the water kissed the night. Somewhere beyond the horizon, there were cities I hadn't seen yet. People I hadn't met yet. Versions of myself I hadn't even dreamed of yet. And all of it, was waiting for me. I closed my eyes, letting the breeze lift my hair, and smiled. Not because I had escaped them, but because I had found myself. Weeks later, somewhere off the coast of South America, the ship docked in a small, quiet port town that wasn't on the usual tourist maps. No crowds. No noise. Just colorful houses stacked along steep hillsides, the air rich with the scent of salt and roasting coffee. I wandered through the narrow streets alone, my hands in my pockets, breathing in the strangeness and beauty of it all. Kids played soccer barefoot in dusty alleyways. A woman laughed from a balcony overhead, tossing a basket down on a rope for fresh bread. Music floated through the air from an open window, something slow, something yearning. And in that quiet place, something settled in me, final and undeniable. I had built my life, piece by piece, around people who saw me as small. Who needed me to stay small because it made them feel bigger. I spent years bending, apologizing, shrinking, hoping that if I was good enough, useful enough, quiet enough, they would eventually reach out and pull me into their circle. But the truth was simpler and sadder. Some people only know how to love conditionally. Some people only know how to keep score. Some people need you weak to feel strong. It wasn't my job to fix that. I had wasted too much of my life trying to fit into a broken place. Standing there, listening to the easy rhythm of an unfamiliar life around me, I made a silent promise. Never again. I wouldn't shrink for anyone. I wouldn't explain myself to people who were committed to misunderstanding me. I wouldn't bleed myself dry to water gardens that were never meant to grow for me. I pulled out my phone, not to check for messages, there were none, I had made sure of that, but to capture the moment, a photo of the sunset flooding the harbor in molten gold, the fishing boats bobbing gently in the light. This time, I didn't post it. This time, the memory was just for me. A small, perfect piece of my life that belonged to no one else. As the sky darkened, I walked slowly back toward the ship, not because I was afraid of getting lost, but because, finally, I wasn't lost at all. I knew exactly where I was. I was home. And it wasn't a place or a family or even a cruise ship. It was me,